I can see the Valkyries like making moves right away on her. Welcome to We Need to Talk Now. I'm Alicia J, and as always, I'm here with Ashley Nicole Moss.
Hello, hello.
And Ashley, we're going to get into all things WNBA Free Agency. But before we do that, we just want to send our love, thoughts, and prayers to everyone who has been affected by the wildfires in LA.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just the images coming out of the greater Los Angeles area are absolutely insane. And contrary to, I think, what a lot of people think, it's not just the celebrities and people who are in a more financial state of being able to rebuild quicker that are being affected. There are a lot of middle class areas that are being affected. It's going to take them a lot longer and it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to rebuild. So if you want to go ahead and help, we have a really cool graphic that can go ahead and show you how you can do that. There are a lot of amazing organizations that you can actually donate money to. So if you're not in the LA area, the American Red Cross, the California Community Foundation's Wildfire Recovery Fund, the LA Fire Department, and California Fire Foundation. The LA Fire Department are just doing an incredible job at putting these fires out as quickly as possible, and they are sprouting all over the place. And then, of course, the Pasadena Humane Society. I think a lot of people forget sometimes how animals are affected in crises like this. Animals obviously need our help to be brought to safety. A lot of people in a panic have left their horses and their cats and their dogs and so many of their pets and just small animals behind that could really use homes while their owners are getting back on their feet. And if you are in the Los Angeles area, there's actually places that you can go to if you have, clothes or books or toys. The Koreatown Center for Community Wellbeing at 433 South Vermont Avenue, or the Collins and Katz Family YMCA at 1466 South Westgate Avenue. So that is if you are nearby and want to personally drop off some items that these families or individuals can use quickly and immediately. Those are options for you as well.
In addition, GoFundMe has also set up a dedicated page to donate to specific individuals and families through the fundraising accounts in that way as well, if you want to tap in and help in that way. We also want to say that literally these aren't the only ways for you to donate or to help. There are a plethora of ways out there for you to do so. These are just specific ones that we wanted to highlight as we did our research. But if you have any additional ways to help all of the people who are dealing with the wildfires and what happened in the aftermath, and actually it's still going on at this very moment, please put them down in the comments below so that, our whole community can look at all the options and help those who really, really need it.
Absolutely. And one of the ways you can do that is staying locked in with us. And in order to do that, you have to follow us on social. We're on all of the platforms. Also, Alicia and myself will be posting things throughout the weeks, the upcoming months, on our own accord and efforts that we know personally. And also just if you want to keep it locked in with us from the sports world as well, as you know, we're always posting about that. And make sure your likes and notifications and you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. That's where we post full-length episodes that you might have missed. Behind the scenes things, special edition episodes that we've done, and just everything and anything in between. And if you are someone who likes to listen to your podcast, we got you covered there too. If you scan this QR code, we will pop up wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify and we're also on Apple Podcasts.
So many ways to tap in with us. And Ashley, we have so much to get into today because we're going to talk WNBA free agency, but also there's a lot going on in the women's sports world that we want to talk about. So we're going to break it all down for you in this week's weekly roundup. So we're going to kick it off with some soccer news. Ashley, we've talked a lot about Casey Stoney on this pod, and Casey Stoney was hired to coach the Canadian women's national team as Jonas Adeval was hired by the San Diego Wave to coach. So there's a little coaching movement there. Jaden Shaw We all know that she asked for a trade, so we knew something was coming, but she was traded to North Carolina rather, after requesting the trade, as I said. And, it's a big loss for San Diego in that, one of the team's leading strikers was one of the team's leading scorers, like right behind Alex Morgan the year before that. So a huge loss for them. And it'll be interesting to see how she does with North Carolina. Marta re-signed with Orlando on a 2-year deal.
Love.
We all saw, yes, we love, love, love Marta. And we all kind of saw that coming. She wanted to stay at home ultimately. So it was really good to see that. Now, in PWHL news, the PWHL takeover in Denver. Denver's kind of hot right now, and we'll get into why that is. But they set a new U.S. attendance record with 14,018 fans, which is huge. And so now fans are calling for the PWHL to be in Denver.
Ooh.
Because they just announced last week that the city will be home to the NWSL's 16th expansion team. So it's like, let's bring all the women's sports to Denver and get it popping. Yeah, I would love to see that too. I'm a Denver fan. So I actually love Denver is a place that I've considered living in at some points in times, and it'd be beautiful to see all of the women's sports in there. So fans are calling for that. Now, I don't know if you watched this, Ashley, but it was a beautiful thing to see. Pitt mounted the largest women's basketball comeback in D1 history, D1 college basketball history. They were down 46-14 to SMU in the second quarter, and then they wound up winning 72-59. It was just, I mean, you couldn't paint it better for a comeback. So it was amazing to see. And if you missed it, it was an instant classic. So go back and watch that. Watch that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and then also in basketball, South Carolina's win over number 5 Texas marks 51 consecutive regular season SEC wins, which is the longest in conference history. So, we were talking about whether they were going to do okay without Watkins. I mean, I think they did it. They're doing all right. And I just want to give some shout outs to a couple other players. Anissa Morrow reached her 90th career double-double, and she's literally killing it. So, it's just an amazing thing to see for South Carolina. They answered the questions that we had last week, for sure, in a major way.
And listen, that was one hell of a weekly roundup. And if you guys like this and like this segment, please let us know in the comments so we can do more of that. I know there's a lot going on in the world of women's sports, and sometimes it's hard to keep up with what's going on. Trust me, you need a little break from social media every now and then. So if you like this, let us know and we can do more of it. But obviously,
and actually, I also wanted to say too that we try our best to get everything in the weekly roundup. We really do. But if there's something else you want to mention, please put that in the comments too. Like, this is a community for everyone. We want to represent all sport, all aspects of sport. So, drop it in the comments. We would love to see it, and we'll include it in future shows. But this is for us. Like, the comments are for all of us. So go ahead and drop anything that you want to mention in there so we can all, recognize and celebrate.
Absolutely. We know how y'all yelled at us about volleyball, and we learned our lesson. So we're good.
We're
here. Well, speaking of here, WNBA Free Agency is hardly a new thing, but there are some things that are going to be unique this upcoming year. So we want to let you know what those are so we can all be on the same page. So key dates, January 11th through the 20th. So right now we are in the middle of that. Teams can make qualifying offers and core player designations. Already we have seen the Aces core Kelsey Plum and now Brianna Stewart with the Liberty. January 21st is also a key date. Teams can actually begin negotiations with free agents. February 1st, contracts can officially be signed. So how does WNBA free agency work? There's a lot of intricacies, but can give you just kind of the cliff notes here. So it largely operates like the NBA. So if you're more familiar with the NBA free agency, it's very similar. Free agents are grouped into classifications based on their numbers of years in the league. Unrestricted free agents can speak to and sign with any team they want. Now, restricted agents can do the same, but they can have any offer matched by their prior or current team, rather, to simplify that a little bit more. The WNBA has also reserved a category for players who hit free agency with less than 3 years in the league. So typically vets who entered the league like later in their career, maybe they spent some time overseas. We always talk about how difficult it is to get a WNBA roster spot, or younger players not on a typical rookie scale type of deal. Now, going to the core designation, this is interesting, right? This is similar to the NFL's franchise tag. So if you know what that is, this will make it a little bit easier to understand. Teams can use it as a way to gain exclusive negotiating rights with a player. And that comes with a core qualifying offer for 1 year. So just like in the NFL, you can't use a franchise tag back-to-back years. This is a one-time deal only, but that's in the event you want to keep a player, but you haven't been able to negotiate a full, much longer deal, or maybe you're just financially not able to do a long-term deal at this current moment in time, but you want to keep that player on your roster. This can help you. Players are not required to play the season on a 1-year deal, can renegotiate other terms or work on a sign and trade. Now, this is where things also get interesting. As we know, we spoke about this on this very podcast multiple times with multiple different people. The WNBA PA has opted out of the current CBA following the 2025 season. Now, the new CBA will bring higher salaries, which is yay, and better benefits, which is also yay. Expect players to sign 1-year contracts to be able to hit free agency again next year when that new CBA kicks in, because again, that's going to result in bigger deals, better benefits, and just a lot more movement and a lot more lucrativeness. I think I said that right, in the deals that they sign. And it could also lead to some interesting deals. Like, does a player take less money this upcoming year and go into it, betting on themselves and gambling on their situation? Does a player try to take a 1-year deal to join a contender for an instant championship and then revisit their long-term deal later on? It's definitely going to be interesting. Also, are teams willing to overpay certain players, knowing how the money scale is going to change next year? These are all things that we'll kind of talk about as free agency, continues to unfold.
Well, Ashley, thank you for that breakdown, because I know a lot of people, they don't understand free agency, and I think even
And you guys
us, like
can have
we're constant.
sometimes, and I am not.
Yeah, but I think we're constantly looking at how it's changing, what it's doing, how people are using it to their advantage and not. There's a lot of players right now, a lot of big players that are free agents. And I just want to break down, the list of who they are, because I think it's important as we go into this conversation about free agency, like who's going where and what do we think is going to happen. And we've got some clues already that can help us deduct this. But from Breanna Stewart to Kelsey Plum, the names are vast. They're big. While it's unlikely that Stewie leaves New York, I think we can both agree on that. I hope. um,
I can.
Kelsey Plum, we have no idea. She's been designated as a core player by the Aces, but it's unknown. As you're just talking through free agency, it's unknown whether or not that's going to keep her in Vegas, right? Or if they're going to gain negotiation rights in a potential sign and trade. These are all aspects of Kelsey Plum that we just really don't know. But like I said, Breanna Stewart, she's a free agent, received a core tag by the Liberty, as she should, obviously. Kelsey Plum just mentioned. We can talk about where she should fit in best, but it's kind of looking like she's not going to return to Vegas. At the end of the year, Coach Hammond said that there's going to be a whole new look for this team next year.
Yeah.
And she's potentially one of the things that could change. Alyssa Thomas with Connecticut, huge I think she's actually going to move the needle in a lot of ways with all the other free agents. Once we find out if and where she's going to go or what she's going to do. Satu Sabali in Dallas, she's already said that she's not returning to Dallas. She did that in an Unrivaled press conference. She said she already played her last game there, so we know that. Kelsey Mitchell in Indiana, we're not sure. We're not sure. They did a post yesterday that made it seem as though she was going to be staying, but we have nothing concrete yet. So definitely someone to watch out for. Nneka Agwumike from Seattle, one of the biggest names in this, and we're going to talk at the end right here about Seattle and what that will mean for them, based on the moves that they already had, and Jewell Loyd asking for a trade already. Bree Jones with Connecticut. She spent the entirety of her career in Connecticut, but she's a big free agent that is definitely up for discussion. Brittany Griner, man, it looks like she's going to stay in Phoenix, but she's also a free agent as well. Definitely a big name there. DeWanna Bonner, it's a really big note that she's actually, I believe, the fiance. She's the fiance of, hold on, Alyssa Thomas. I know this. I don't know what, just my brain just glitched for a second, but she's the fiance of Alyssa Thomas. And that's also important in the movement for both of those free agents. They want to stay together, I'm sure. This is what a lot of people are saying. Again, I don't want to speak for them, but surmising. So let's get down to Seattle. We talked about them a little bit earlier, but Jewell Loyd is not a free agent, but has already requested a trade. So there's got to be some movement there, right? So when you think about the money that they have, they've placed a core tag on Gabby Williams already, which obviously will limit the amount that they can give to Nneka. So what do you think that means for the Seattle Storm moving forward?
Obviously, I think that we already know that Jewell Loyd won't be part of the Seattle Storm. I just don't see how it can be for a multitude of reasons. We know that she is unhappy. We know about all the allegations and everything that came out of that. We know what transpired with Seattle during the expansion draft. We talked about that on this podcast as well. I don't know in terms of what players are moved in addition to her, but I can say, much like we see kind of with the Jimmy Butler situation playing out in Miami, I think that once you cross a certain threshold where a player has come out, not via their agent, not via a report, but has formally said, I mean, in Jimmy's case, he didn't say, I want to be traded. He essentially said, I'm looking for my joy. I can't wait to find that again. When they asked him, do you think you could find that in Miami? He says, no, I don't think so. That, for all intents and purposes, was like, get me out of here. And then everything that followed, right? With Jewell Loyd, it's very similar, except that we know she has officially, just like Jimmy Butler, requested a trade. And once you get to that point, and everything else that has transpired with that saga, I just don't see how both parties can move forward on a clean slate. We talk about this all the time. We even talked about this a little bit with the expansion draft and why it was a big deal to keep which picks were up for the draft to yourself, because if that person doesn't get picked, that player doesn't get picked, it's kind of hard to erase that from your memory. Like, you didn't want me and I got to show up to the locker room and put my jersey on like it's all good. It's not all good. I have a problem. No. So I expect that situation, not if, but when.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it will be very interesting to see where Jewell Loyd, ultimately goes, right? And I think that's going to have kind of a ripple effect with all of these free agents, depending on what happens with her as well. You could say the same for Satu, right? But when I'm looking at this list, Ashley, there's some big names. It is a big year for free agents in the WNBA. Which one of these free agents do you think is going to be like the biggest? I don't know, like who's the biggest free agent on this list and why? Like, why do you think? For me, I have my own personal choice.
I'm ignoring Breanna Stewart because she's not going anywhere. So let's take Stewart out. For me, it's Kelsey Plum. I think that her being such an intricate part of the Aces for so many seasons and obviously winning the championships with them, whatever player gets her, One is going to get a player with championship DNA, a player that knows how to win, and player that knows how to compete, right? And you can't recreate that type of experience. It just happens. It comes with getting it out the mud. It comes with the trials and tribulations of being in this league, being a vet in this league. I think on the other side of things, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Aces look like without Kelsey Plum, because she has been, again, such an intricate part of the success of the Las Vegas Aces. And sometimes, although you still have a lot of other core pieces, sometimes the chemistry can be completely thrown off by the change of one player or the absence of one player or the injury of one player. And it is rather interesting, right? We spoke about the Kate Martin situation and how that kind of took everybody by surprise just because she wasn't costing that much. And, the Aces organization seemed to really like her. The fan base really liked her. But I'm actually very surprised that Kelsey Plum is even on this list. And I'll say why. Because I think that the Aces are of a certain age, at least their core group is. And we have seen now the league get younger, get more competitive. And we were talking about this during the playoffs and even towards the end of the W season, how I think the tape is out on how to beat the Aces. And I think that they're no longer striking fear throughout the rest of the league like they used to. And we saw a new champ be crowned this season, right? I'm actually very surprised when you have a dynasty and that dynasty is on one side of the line versus the other. And what I mean by that, they're an older dynasty in terms of like the age of like your core group versus, being super young and rookies and like with so much promise and so much opportunity left. I'm actually very surprised that you would mess with that. You know what I mean? And not try to run that back as many times as you possibly can. I kind of think of the Warriors and what they're doing now. Like, if you're not going to prepare for the future immediately, just keep running it until you can no longer run it. So that's something I'm a little bit surprised by.
Yeah, and it wouldn't just be Kelsey, right? I mean, if you look at it, they also have I believe two other free agents. Maybe it's three, but I know for sure Alicia Clark and Sydney Colson are also free agents as well. And while people wouldn't probably maybe not name them, I don't want to no shade, but not name them as like as big of a player
Mhm.
as Kelsey would be, they really matter in so many different ways on that team, including the chemistry. I mean, Alicia Clark is amazing as a veteran player. She's very integral for that team. And then they also have two coaches that went on to be head coaches as
Yeah.
well in the league. So there's a lot of movement with them, not just with free agency, but also, I mean, just personnel. Like Becky wasn't playing. She said it's going to look different, and it's definitely going to look different for them. But when I think about Kelsey Plum, and what team that I personally would love to see her on, right? You mentioned the
Mhm.
Warriors. I can see the Valkyries like making moves right away on her.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can see her being obviously like a franchise player for that team, the new team that is coming up. I see her being obviously huge for offense and all of that thing. Also, Natalie Nakase coached her obviously with the Aces. They are known for also just having a close relationship too, as friends or whatever off the court. I think they took like Pilates classes together or something like that. I saw a story about that at one point
Blind
in
girl, I'm
time.
here for it.
Listen, I'm about to start, Ashley. Just because
Yay!
you have recommended it, I'm about to start.
Welcome to the gang, gang.
Yes. Well, I'm not there yet. You can welcome me when I take the first class, and I'm
Okay,
dying
got
because I know it's hard.
it.
But literally, when I think about the Valkyries and they have a lot of cap space, they can do a lot of things. Obviously in this expansion season and with free agency, I can just see them coming out the gate, just swooping her up real quick. I know from working at the Warriors how Joe Lacob is, with winning.
For
And he's
sure.
already said within the first 5 years, we're about to win the chip. I'm paraphrasing, but they're not playing when it comes to, they want to be good right away. From everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard from them, they want to be good right away. And I think Kelsey would be a huge part of that. So I can see that coming out the gate.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Obviously, in any situation, you have most to win, most to lose, somewhere in the middle. I mean, possible games, Alicia. We have Indiana, Chicago, Golden State. Obviously, Indiana, new head coach. Caitlin Clark, Aliyah Boston, still on rookie contracts. We spoke about this, especially, seeing how the Fever clawed their way into the playoffs and how much promise is there. When we talk about, teams, it's kind of the opposite of the Aces. This is a young team with such a high ceiling and so many years to accomplish all the goals on their list, right? Another team that we can talk about in the same boat, Chicago. You have obviously Angel Reese. You have Camila Cardoso. Obviously, one of the conversations that have been had is about surrounding with a stronger unit. But again, they did not extend a qualifying offer, though, to Sinead Carter, which is interesting. Kennedy Carter, excuse me, which is interesting, right? Seeing how much of a enforcer and just dynamite she was for Chicago, for the Sky, and how much of a talking point she made the Sky, how much she put them on a national radar, if you will, outside of Angel Reese and her star power. That was probably something that took a lot of us by surprise. And it's going to be interesting whether or not the Sky regret that in the long run. Some people might say that they will. And Golden State, your new home team, has the most cap space. They need to still find their star, their nucleus of their team, who they want to kind of build it around. They do have a very well-versed, well-covered team from both sides of the ball, if you will, but just still need to make that quick impact. And usually a star does that. On the other side of the conversation, though, most to lose, we're going to talk about them one more time. The Aces, it was a revolving door for head coaches, or coaches rather, when it comes to the Aces coaching staff. They lost 2 assistants to other teams. They currently don't have a GM. It is January and they do not have a GM. Obviously, lots of turnover. We just finished talking about Kelsey Plum. Could be even more turnover in addition to Kelsey Plum. It's a little bit chaotic out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, listen, you can call me a homer or whatever you want to, but I think the people with the most to gain in all of this are the Valkyries. They're definitely
I don't
they
think
already
that's you
have the
being
moves.
a homer. They're the new kid
Well,
on the. I mean,
yes. I mean, and obviously with the cap space that they have, and
huge.
not even that. When you look at the facilities that they're building, what they're
Mhm.
willing to invest into the team, all of the things that players are expressing in different ways that they want, they have it. You know, they made
Yeah.
an excellent coaching choice. Building, they have an amazing GM. There's so many things you could go down the line on why it would be an amazing place to play. You know, it's they're gonna take care of their players. They just are, and they know that, and it's a great market. I know that they're already doing amazing marketing. They're gonna market every one of those players correctly. So there's just so many pluses to being on that team. I could see why it would be a place that people would want to go. So not
Yeah.
only do you have the room to play with, but you also have I don't know, I guess I like the star franchise power, if you will, to
Mhm.
draw people in. And so, and especially, if you get somebody like Kelsey Plum, the sky's the limit as far as they go. I think they're just starting off on a great foot. And in this free agency, I promise you, well, actually, I want to promise because I have been wrong at time of 10, but
Mhm.
I can just see them really doing the strategic moves that are going to put them in the best place that they could be in, after all of this. So,
Yeah.
really looking forward to see what they're doing. But the Fever too. The Fever too, like you mentioned the rookie contracts that they have.
And
Obviously,
they
Caitlin
promised a
Clark,
big free agency. They teased that, so we'll see what that
right.
means.
And obviously with the players that they have, not only just Caitlin Clark, but they have some really, really great players. Aliyah Boston, you could go down the line
Mhm.
um, of the players that are there. And so, Indiana has amazing fans. It's definitely a great place to be too. And then you also do have Caitlin Clark. That's a factor. So
Mhm.
they want to win. They have all the tools to do it. They're in a great position to do so, and so I see them being winners as well. Those are my 2 top. the two top teams that I can see winning.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Whatever happens in free agency, whatever happens in the W, there's another league, Alicia, that they need to be keeping their eyes on, because if you want to talk about a league doing it right and doing it big for their players, look no further than the 305, because Unrivaled is doing the damn thing. What's going on there, Alicia?
Man, what isn't going on? From the
They just announced, I think it's Sprite today. It's just like a revolving door of just
right.
sponsors. It's
Yes.
bravo. I'm not listen, I'm not hating. I love to see it. I love to see it.
Yeah. I do love to see it too. And the players are loving it as well. We have a lot of different quotes about Unrivaled because they had, a media day and they have media availability. And they're really using this as a platform to get a lot of things out and to say a
Mhm.
lot of things. And that's one thing I love about it, is that it's for the players by the players, and so they're able to do the things that they've always wanted to and the things that they think should be happening in this league. So from the way that they've masterfully just rolled out all the sponsorships and what it is and the teams, the apparel, all of those things. I mean, the strategy behind Unrivaled needs to be studied and it needs to be documented because they have done an amazing job. But I say all that to say there have been some things, and this kind of relates to free agency too. There have been some things that have already been said at these press conferences that needed to be said. And I hope that other leagues and the WNBA as well are taking note, because they're giving a lot of the blueprint of what they want to see outside of what they're doing at Unrivaled. And so let's just go down for a couple of them. Angel Reese had something to say. She said that she would stay here forever. Everything I need is here, from massages to cold tubs to being able to have resources to workouts and everything. This is the exposure we deserve. Being on TNT every night, being able to have the access to watch our games, this is something that we deserve for a long time. That's a very, very strong thing to say. Many nuggets in there to listen to and to pay attention to. We're going to go also, Brittany Griner, she made it plain. She made it plain with her statements. She said, Unrivaled is showing that you don't need a lot of time to pool resources together. Being happy with what we already have is not going to fly here. It'll definitely put pressure on the WNBA to do better. And then, we have a bunch of other examples as well, but those are two very strong ones. And then in addition, Sue Bird, she has her podcast it's her and Megan Rapinoe obviously together. And they said something that was very interesting, Ashley. There's going to be so many super teams formed in Unrivaled. The WNBA free agency chatter that must be happening in the training room, when they're out shopping, when they're getting some coffee, has got to be next level. She then went on to say that now they're together for like 2 months during WNBA free agency. So the level of recruiting, I can only imagine. So not only, are they being treated in the ways that they want to, they're expressing how it should be done and why Unrivaled is doing it in the best way possible. But they're also in proximity with so many amazing players that they can have these conversations with, make different moves with. I mean, the sky is the limit when it comes to what can be done in and around Unrivaled. And we are seeing that with everything that the players are expressing and just what we're seeing with how they're rolling out, everything Unrivaled. So, what are your thoughts on this new league and what's happening?
I think it's great. I'm excited to pull up to some games and see what's going on down there. I have a few friends that are working with Unrivaled, and I heard the facility is absolutely incredible. I know exactly, the facility they used to kind of they gutted it out and made what now has become the Unrivaled lot, if you will. So like Angel said, there's, rehabilitation rooms, there's green rooms, and there's podcast spaces. So if you have to do interviews the same day, you have a real state of the art situation. There's obviously the court and everything that you could want, like Angel said, like Brittany said, is there. And I think that Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird are absolutely right. You see this a lot of the times, especially in the NBA. Not so much now, but I remember in earlier years when we're seeing all those super teams kind of form. And I always envision the banana boat with Carmelo and D Wade and LeBron, and they're on vacation, and these guys are hanging out and they're having conversations and they're talking about, what it would be like to team up and what that would look like and how they could win a championship. And guys are friendly off the court, and whether that's because they're just simply friends or they have business endeavors together, they're spending more and more time together. And when you start bouncing ideas off of each other, and when you start daydreaming about what it would be like to play with each other, sometimes you start putting pressure on your teams to make those dreams a reality. And I would not be surprised if that's what's happening at Unrivaled, and also if that's what's happening at Athletes Unlimited. I know that their season's going to start shortly as well, in Nashville. So, when you get women together, athletes together, I should say, just in general, and a lot of those athletes now have the freedom to move around because of free agency, you would be a fool to think those conversations aren't happening. They're happening. So, and I will
Oh,
say also, I do love how this league, and also Athletes Unlimited, I know they've been around a little bit longer, but um, I love how they're giving athletes the option to not have to go overseas, one, but two, how they're putting pressure on the big league, and that is the W, to do better by their players, because obviously it's being able to be done by leagues that are in their infancy stages, and there's no excuses for a league that has been around 20 plus years to not do the same. So I love it all the way around.
yeah, I do too. And it's just more opportunity for women, to play. And I'm here for that always. But I hope, and when you look at when these leagues are versus when the W is, it's not in direct competition at all. It's meant to complement each other and keep people
Right.
playing year round. However, when you see when something is being done in an effective and great and efficient way all the way around, you must take note. You know, don't look at it. I would hope that people don't look at it as like they're trying to outdo us. And I would
Yeah.
hope that they would look at it as inspiration,
We got to
for
step
how
their
they
game
should
up.
be. Yes, for how they should
Mhm.
be doing. Um, so, just take a look, take some notes, you know, implement. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to
Yeah.
say. But actually,
Speaking of notes, Alicia, if
yes.
you are watching this segment right now, I want you to take some notes, whether you are interested in taking one of us on a date or just being friends. This next conversation will help you a leg and an arm above the rest, because right now we're going to have a conversation in candid conversations before we close out the show about our biggest pet peeve. And this is not going to apply just to sports. This here is going to apply to whatever really grinds our gears, really whatever just makes our skin crawl, whatever gives us the ick. I know the kids are saying that these days, the ick. So Alicia, I'm going to let you go first. What is, and I'm sure you have a few, but if you could only choose one, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Now, are we talking about dating? Because you said at the
It could be
beginning,
anything. I
okay,
friendship pet peeves or just people pet peeves directly correlate to dating, because dating is people. So I feel like if it's a pet peeve that you have for just people in general, it applies in every and any situation.
this is true. So I'm going to say, and people are probably going to say, Alicia, you talk about this all the time, but it's just my reality. Tall questions. It's my biggest pet peeve because people come up and they say, first of all, they tell you you are tall, and I'm like, I know. Number one. So like, don't tell a tall person they tall. They
You own
know.
a mirror. Thank you.
Listen, been tall my whole life. Been tall my whole life, but also it does translate to dating because I can't tell you how many times I've been on a date, a first date, and they ask me, "How tall are you? How tall are your parents? Did you play basketball? How did you get that tall?" Is also a question, and it's just like, are you serious? But I will spend the first, 20 minutes of a date talking about being tall. And I'm like, that is not, that's an X for you right away because my name
Mhm,
is Alicia and you're trying to get to know me, not just my height. And it also is like
mhm,
kind of a dead giveaway for insecurities
mhm.
about it. Because
Ooh.
if you're so focused on this one thing, like, are you trying to get over it? Like, what are you doing? And so
Mhm.
that's my biggest pet peeve. Like, so annoying. So annoying.
I don't blame you. That would annoy me.
What Yeah,
Um,
what about you?
so I have a bunch, but my biggest, obviously, like I hate slow texters. Like that is really something that annoys me. Like when I say slow, I mean if I text you at like 11 o'clock on a Monday, I shouldn't hear from you 11 o'clock p.m. on a Monday. It shouldn't be a 12. I know you've been on your phone at some point in 12 hours. Like that's just unacceptable, especially if you're getting to know somebody in a romantic setting. Biggest turn off for me is like if you take too long to text me back, I'm like, yeah, I cared yesterday. I don't care anymore. So like it's been real. I'm gonna holler at you when I see you. But that's a different conversation for a different day. We can do dating pet peeves. Emma, if you're listening, which I know you are, write this down because we could do a whole show about
An
dating pet
entire
peeves. 'Cause
show.
I have a few, okay? And I need some place to get this off my chest. But general pet peeves, I absolutely hate when you hold a door open for somebody and they don't say thank you.
Woo!
I hate when people don't hold the door open for somebody that's coming up behind them. I'm also a real New Yorker. If I hold the door open for you and you don't say thank you, I say, "Oh, you're welcome." And then they look at me crazy.
1000%.
No, you're welcome
Listen,
because I didn't have to do what I just did. So you at least can say, "Thank you for holding the door." Thank you for taking 6 seconds, 5 seconds, however long it is delayed from where you had to go to hold the door open for me. I acknowledge it and I thank you. Don't walk through this door and say nothing because I am going to yell out, "You're welcome." I am that person. Absolutely.
Ashley, I am that person too, and I'm not from New York.
Mhm.
I will say, "You're welcome," just like that. Like, just like,
Cause
and then
like,
people
who
you
raised you?
and you know what kills me about that? Then they get mad at you for saying you're welcome. And it's like, you're the reason why we're here. I wouldn't have to say you're welcome if you would have said thank you.
Thank you. This is my point. See how easy that was? Thank you. This is my point. I will say, because I know we both share this pet peeve. This is a runner-up for me. This is a traveling pet peeve. When they start boarding the plane, if you know you are in 25E and you already know that goes disabilities, first class, group A, stay your behind out of the boarding area. They're not calling your group yet. You are
Right.
nowhere near the front of the line. Why are you crowding the boarding area? 25E, walk over there and wait for your, like, you know, you're going first. Why are you squeezing past me with your book bag and your carry-on and your luggage and whatever else you in your whole family? You know y'all are not boarding this plane within the first 5 minutes. Get out of my way. It annoys me. It drives me nuts. Drives me
Yeah.
nuts.
It also drives me nuts when you land and someone just runs to the front. I mean, what is happening? This is not what we do. This is
You
not
know
what
what
we do.
also really pisses me off on a plane too? Is when you also know you're in the back of the plane, but you try to put your luggage above, like, because sometimes people who are sitting in the back of the plane will get to board first because of, like, I don't know, like, disabilities or pre-boarding or whatever the case may be. Not mad at that. But your luggage needs to go over your head, not mine. Because I will move your bag. And then we got a situation on our hands. Are you sitting in the
Right.
seat? Did you pay for the seat in the front? Because if you didn't, your bag needs to be above your head. Otherwise, I will slide your bag to the left because this is my spot. Again, this could
And
be
it
a whole
also
story.
just well, logistically, yeah, no, we clearly needed to get some things off of our chest. But
Mhm.
um, with the bag, just to wrap up the bag thing, it also just logistically doesn't make sense because you might need something from your bag. Just keep it with you. Put it above you in your space, and that's it.
Right.
Very
Don't you
simple.
want your bag near you? Don't you want your stuff in your proximity? Like, why would you want it in my proximity? That's not my bag. But
Listen,
we wanna know what your pet peeves are because clearly Alicia and I have a lot. Um, and again, we'll have to revisit this with at a later show. Maybe we'll do a longer segment about this because we can again do a whole show about this. We have a lot of pet peeves, a lot of things that grind our gears. But we want to know what yours are. So whether it's on Insta, Twitter, YouTube, drop a comment in here. Let us know. Maybe we agree, and maybe we'll just include your pet peeves on the next time we have this conversation. As a reminder, as always, make sure you're tapping in with us on social, whether it's our individuals, whether it's the show's platform. Make sure those subscriptions, those notifications, all that good stuff's all the way up on YouTube. And at the end of the show, scan that QR code if you're a podcast listener, or maybe you know someone who's a podcast listener and you want to share and send this to them. Make sure you do that, because we're here all year, all 2025, tapping into all women's sports and everything else in between. While Alicia and I kind of calm down from sharing our pet peeves with you all, we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Stay
we're
back
gonna
the
calm down.
plane.
Yeah,
I
come
hate
on
it.
now. See y'all next week.
Mm-mm.